From the small towns in Middle Tennessee to the true legacies that makes our community so strong. This is Life Stories. Community Insider is brought to you by
Dr. Pepper. Good for life, good for the community.
High quality leads with prolific internet marketing and invigorating web design services that will energize your business. We are SiriusSEM. Call today or visit us at SiriusSEM.com.
Name James Fisk. I attend Hiawassee Church of Christ. My background as a childhood, when I was growing up, through the neighborhood, I was having trouble understanding my family, that I loved to tell the truth, and I was getting resented from being a truthful person. The ones that didn't like for me to tell the truth, they didn't want me around them, and I would asked to stay all night with some of my relatives sometimes, which it was my aunt's house, but her daughter was over the house. And when I asked who, she would snarl up at me and kindly say, well, yeah, I guess so. But I had a brother older than me that they just loved him to death. You know, anything he said was okay. So I had to go through life like that, and it was kind of hard. We grew up hard. My mother and father, when we worked, we did a lot of nursery work, blackberry picking, dogwood berries, and collected stock for nurseries, and we all worked as a family. I grew up around my grandmother, and she was a good grandmother, but she's a little tough with us. You know, she had choice words she'd say to us, but she wasn't no hating grandmother. She loved us. And whenever I leave home from my father to go stay with her, me and my brother, we'd sit around them, and they do, my grandfather was a buck dancer. He'd go up to the square. He'd leave out of the country, go to the square up by the courthouse where they did knife trading and whittling on cedar sticks. And I would ask my grandfather when he'd go up there, I said, Grandpa, bring me some peanuts back. So he would go up there and dance. The buck dance, and those guys would throw money down on the ground, and he would earn his money for dancing, and he'd go buy little groceries and things like that and bring it back home to us. And that's the kind of grandfather I have, which we all grew up dancing except my brother. My grandmother, whenever we was big enough to start trying to walk, our legs were a little weak, and we just bounce around there, and she'd get the buck dancer and say, come on, dance for Grandma, come on, dance. And we get the dancing going on, and we just had a good time, and we sat around. We didn't have no radios and TV, so we had to sit around the older people and listen to stories that they told and things that they done in their life, which it was true. And we learned from that, and I love to be around older people, so I got my learning and training from the older people, and as now I'm 60, going on 64-year-old, but my life is double because I'm 128-year-old in mine, because I live around them old people like that, and I learn a lot and took a shortcut in life to learn these things, and the wisdom, the knowledge that they had, they passed it down to me. As the story goes about hanging out in the streets and things like that, I always prayed to God that I would have some keys for somewhere to live, because I felt persecuted all the time, and it was just a hard life. But God is wonderful, and as I grew older, and which I wasn't a Christian at that time, but God was always with me, and He led me, and the keys that I asked for, He gave me plenty keys. And as I grew older and got married, I had children, and we owned the first house me and my wife built. Then we got separated, and then I went out and bought another place, and then I turned around and bought one here on Ruby Street. And as I say, as the keys, God has given me plenty of keys, And I counted some today, and I got up to about 40-something keys. I looked around and seen around, and as I'm talking about keys, the true story is I've got keys here in my hand. So God's been wonderful, and God's a wonderful God. And if you believe in God and trust in God, He will carry you through and see that you have the things you need. You'll never be without anything. And God's a loving God, and He's a caring God. So that's part of my story of my life. But it's been a good life. I thought it was a hard life, but nothing comes easy. You have to strive to do these things the Lord asks you to do, which none of us is perfect, as though He says that, which we're not. And we all make mistakes, but that ain't what God is asking for. He's asking for truth and honesty. That's the best policy, because as He says, the truth will set you free, and it will. So always try to do good, and good will come to you. Amen. May God bless you.